In part 2 of our CarCraft Fox Body Mustang versus 3rd Gen Camaro series, we'll be continuing to install performance parts on the Mustang and start building the 404 cubic inch stroker LS engine for the Camaro. Our Mustang will be receiving a brand new to the market A-arm style front suspension with new brakes. Plus, we continue making progress on the installation of that Godzilla V8 and upgraded drivetrain. Our Camaro is back from the paint shop and waiting for us to tear into it.
All right, so we're back here on the Fox body. We've painted the engine bay. We're gonna throw in our Team ZK member up front again, get the Godzilla back in there, see where the computer wants to mount right here. That's just how long they gave us on that wiring harness. We got our quick performance rear end, just showed up about 20 minutes ago. We've got our Team Z torque boxes ready to go in. We've cut out the old ones. We're gonna start getting in here, getting this thing together, start making it more of a true car so we can measure wheel offset, see how big of a tire we can fit in there, and get this thing going.
All right, so right now the team's putting on the Ritech SLA system. This is one of the things I'm probably most excited about. It really should transform what Fox bodies are capable of. The McPherson strut has its limitations, so with something like this, you're gonna get better travel and better tire planting with the camber gain. Got some great looking components. It's gonna really open up the potential for both handling and braking with this kit. Okay.
All right, what I'm doing here is I'm just putting in these studs in this quick performance 9-inch housing that we have here. I'm gonna put a little bit of anti-seize on here just so it draws through a little better. This has been powder coated. I don't wanna run a drill bit down there. I don't wanna egg shape the hole because this knurl is real fine. I'll go grab a nut, I'll lube the threads, I'll put a couple washers down, I'll hand tighten them. Don't use an impact. So we're just gonna work them in nice and slow. Sometimes patience is the key to success. Bounce test that up there, make sure we're not too off-weighted. I think we're good. All right, here we go. We got this Dakota Digital dash right here. That's gonna go in this Fox body. I have not looked at it yet, but I do use a lot of these. Oh, that is nice. The beauty of these Dakota Digital dashes is you have a few different options. You can hardwire them into your car, run the sensors as you want them. If you're using some OBD2 or CAN bus, you can put that information through one of their BIM control modules in here, and you'll get almost everything you need, especially if you've got an automatic or a manual and you have the speed sensor plumbed into the computer so it knows how fast the car is going. You can get your speedometer out of it as well. So it makes it a very simple wiring installation process. They're very good.
So we got our clutch all wrapped up. Now we're gonna start with the bell housing. And we have this sweet one from Holley, which is incredibly light, like incredibly light. Threw some bolts on there and we're ready to rock.
This is a Duralast Gold rotor from a 2015 Mustang. This coating on it's called their Z-Clad coating. We're just gonna use this lug for just a second to hold it in place. And it's made for braking in the brake pads faster and corrosion protection. They claim these have an advanced molecular structure. Basically, these are gonna be less likely to warp. They're better at dissipating heat. It's just a really, really nice rotor. I've used them a few times on customers' cars, anything from minivans, trucks, to sports cars. They're really nice product.
Is that the way you want it?
Go for it.
Let's
see.
It touched.
All right.
But clearly, look how much room we got.
Yeah, I'd say that's like, what, half an inch?
Oh yeah, we are
in the clear.
golden.
Yeah, we're down to about 3/8 inches.
Hey.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. All right, well, what do you think of our progress?
I think we've made a lot of progress today, and things are shaping up nicely.
Yeah, they sure are coming.
Here we are at Flag Motorsports in Escondido, California. And Evan, this is my first time meeting you, but you've got a really cool shop here. You've got some nice engines on stands. You've got some drift cars on the wall.
Yeah.
You mentioned you do some drifting.
I do, yeah.
Build drift engines. So I think we're in the right place. I don't plan to do a whole lot of drifting with this Camaro, but...
Well, even if you do, you should be all set up with this. These stroker engines work really good, especially if you have like a classic car that might be a little heavier. We've got an LS2 block out of a 2007 Corvette. So the displacement's gonna be 404 cubic inches. It's a 6-liter block that we start with, and then we added a 4-inch stroke crank, and we went 10 over on the bore to clean up those cylinders and get them where we wanted. So with that, we ended up at 404 cubic inches. With that 4-inch bore, that lets us run an LS3 cylinder head, which is gonna be a really great flowing cylinder head out of the box, especially when you compare it to that old muscle car stuff. So we've got some K1 Technologies H-beam rods with good ARP bolts in them, Molle pistons. They come with rings, and that's gonna make up our bottom end. We have some really nice Molle bearings. Heads we got from Dart. They supplied all the guts that went into the cylinder heads as well. And then for our valve train, we went with Schneider Cams. They're local here in San Diego, and they design all my camshafts, and they've never disappointed us.
Well, this is really cool, and it's probably more engine than I think the Camaro is actually gonna need,
Yeah.
but you know, these things kind of happen, don't they?
Yeah, I've never had anyone complain about too much horsepower, so. Now we're working with Molle's combo dome pistons. I love these things. I use them in all kinds of my builds. I find that they're a really reasonable price for what you get. They come with their rings in the pack, so there's no worrying about trying to find a ring pack that's gonna fit. And their one set of pistons will fit. Doesn't matter if you have a cathedral head, a rectangle port head, an LS7 head, they'll work with everything. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna hang the rod on the piston. On LS's, this is pretty easy because I have a rule of thumb that works really well for me. A lot of guys go, oh, which way does the rod go? How's it? It's super easy to remember. So what's important is this big chamfer right here. This needs to sit on your crankshaft. So that big chamfer needs to sit against the cheek of the crank. And if you look at the part that has the small chamfer, that's where the other connecting rod's gonna sit. And that's really important. So what we're gonna do is the easiest way I remember it is to go, okay, you've got your intake valve relief and your exhaust valve relief. I know to always line up your large chamfer with the larger intake valve relief. And that is the easiest way for me to set these up. And that's only gonna work on an LS motor, and I'm sure there's other motors it'll work for, but because I only focus on one, I only have to remember one trick. And our next step, now that we got our camshaft and timing cover and oil pump all installed, is to put our front cover on. We were lucky enough to get these at AutoZone. It's awesome that they carry so many of these factory GM parts. And ARP sent us this whole kit of all the bolts that you're gonna need and to put your motor together, and they're all labeled. So you got your valley cover bolts, your water pump bolts, exhaust, timing cover bolts, which is what we're gonna be using next. Super convenient, they come in all one package, you don't have to fiddle with them. And then we're gonna use this Mr. Gasket tool to align our front cover seal on the motor, and you'll see me do that next. So if you guys are familiar with LS3 heads, you'll notice that we have some extra bolt holes here that would typically be sent on an LSX head. And what happened was we needed some heads for this, and these are the heads we wanted to use, but all that was available was ones with these extra bolt holes. So we debated machining them off, but the point was, you know, it's not gonna affect anything other than looks, and it gives you some extra points to zip tie something. And if John ever gets tired of about 700 horsepower, he'll be able to step up to an LSX and really make some power. So we figured we'd leave them on there, but just for those of you that are like, hey, where are these gonna go? Yeah. And then now we're gonna put our valve springs on. We got our stainless valves installed, our seat for the valve spring, and our seal. So we're gonna put these guys on, put our retainers on and our keepers, and then we'll be able to bolt them on. All right, the big moment.
Well, Evan, thank you so much. You put this thing together so fast. It's incredible. I can tell you do a lot of these things. So you know your way around an LS engine like the back of your hand. Now, you said this thing's going to sound pretty awesome, right?
Oh yeah, you're going to hear it coming a whale away.
All right, good. And it's going to make a lot of power, and it's really going to wake up our third-gen Camaro. So Just a little bit more to do, and then we get hardcore building on that Camaro.
All right, so we're back here on the Mustang. A few things have happened since you've been here. Gabe has gone inside, taken apart the interior. We've got the dash out. We're gonna replace the heater core because it is hard to get in there for that. We're gonna switch everything over to a black interior. But on the motor side and drivetrain, we've got the engine and transmission in there. Everything's set up for our clutch master and slave. We got our Hydra Boost in here. You can see a little bit of some wiring going on. You're kind of stuck with the wiring layout they have. We had to make a computer mount here, and this is mainly because you only have this much length of the actual harness to move to where you want. We thought about slotting it into here. We're a little low on time. We have a lot to build here. We have a whole nother car to build. This is on a real schedule with a real deadline. It's really starting to come together. There are a few issues that we've come across. The oil pan sits about an inch off the ground right now. The reason why that's a problem is because we're just on some V6 2015 and up rollers, which are actually 2 inches taller. So as soon as, well, they're 1.8, so 0.9 of an inch is how much we're gonna come down as soon as we put the actual wheel and tire that belongs on this car on here. We can crank the coilovers a little bit, but we also don't want to exponentially increase our spring rate down there. In the back, we had a problem. We're running 8.8 bearing ends, and we needed a way to retain that. We got some Willwood brakes that went on there, and that backing plate with the drum inner parking brake is actually retaining our 9-inch bearing and the 8.8 bearing end. So we finally got that together. Everything worked out. Got the 9-inch center in there, and it's starting to look real pretty. You're gonna see Gabe in here doing a lot of the interior stuff. We'll be super excited to get that done. Hopefully he's gonna take out a whole bunch of weight with all the juke padding, insulation, get that stuff out of here. We're gonna have some new headlights, tail lights coming. We're gonna change the looks of the car. But right now, it's super cool to see this thing sitting on its own weight on the ground and know that we have a viable race car here. So we're gonna get back to it. This would be massively offset. We're not quite rolled up to flush. We're on this pin, but we're at the top right here. We have a couple of options. We do have some offset bushings that are already drilled that'll come real close in here, but they don't require the tube. So we can cut the tube off, leave the tube on the back for bolt stability, and we can put in those guys. I don't know if it'll drop it enough. We have a little bit of meat here, but this looks like maybe it's just a press fit into there. So if I mill off the top of that or grind it with a flapper disc or a carbide burr, we can get closer. We can also take a little bit of rib out of this pan, but we need to run this pan to use the variable displacement oil pump that's in it to run our Ford control pack. So, wish us luck. We're gonna see what happens. Oh, it was already broken.
Yeah, it was.
Bam.
Whose team are you on?
I'm going Team Camaro now. You know? It's looking better and better by the minute.
No. You're too late, dude. You're fully committed.
Okay. Super stoked. We got steering. Well, not powered yet, but hopefully our E-Pass gets here. We can put the power unit underneath the dash. That's what we do. We make things work regardless of what they're supposed to do.
See this steering rack?
Yeah, yeah.
Stay tuned for the next episode, where we'll be sending the Fox body off to paint and getting the Camaro on the lift to begin installing the new SpeedTech suspension.
Looks like it's drifting.
Really accentuates the one-eyed fog light.
I gotta bring that up. I actually have some cool parts coming. I can either do like a halo fog light, or the guy sending me like this hex mesh stuff in case we want to try to run ducks back to the brakes or something.
No ducks, come on.
Whack, whack.
What? I know, but what looks cooler than at night with those little halos coming at you?
The rendering, even though I didn't ask for them, they did put halos in the rendering,
Yeah.
and so it did look pretty cool. It definitely looked cooler than John's
Your
Camaro.
car. You do what makes you happy.